Communication is a complex world. It is a world full of intricacies, subtext, and hidden meanings in general. It is something that is not so simple because there are certain things that we must consider in communicating. Of course, we must consider the verbal and nonverbal aspect, but beyond those utterances, beyond those expressions, we need to consider something more than that, something higher, something more difficult. We get to consider how we actually talk, how we release sentences, how we uttered words, how we get to deliver our messages through the words that we say. In computer mediated communication, it is like an actual communication. No, actually, it is an actual communication where rules of everyday communication, we get to apply it to computer mediated communication. And there are specific rules that we can really use and apply in our everyday communication, be it virtual, be it live, be it real time. If we can apply it in our everyday communication, we get to have a better experience of communicating with one another. There are some aspects in communication that we have to consider. One of these is politeness. In elementary and high school topics of communication, we don't get to uh, discuss politeness because it is of higher level thinking. But politeness, it is observed in everyday life. Like you can see it in every day in how you converse with the people, how you talk. So politeness. In our life, I mean in our recent days where we get to be politically correct, we can't afford to be rude and uh, be rude to one another or something like that, that we have to be nice, we have to be presentable, we have to be accurate, we have to be precise in our language. Politeness can be really an important thing that we must talk about because there is a negative and positive politeness. When we talk, especially when we are talking to people that we are not close with, we have to observe a certain level of politeness because nowadays it is so easy to ruin your self-image. And if you ruin your self-image, your credibility will be lost and no one will believe what you are saying anymore. So we have to be careful with our public image. We have to be careful of our disposition in general. We cannot afford to offend people because nowadays it is so easy to offend people, especially with homophobic uh, comments or the pronouns that we are using for them. It is so easy to offend people. So we have to be careful in what we are saying. There is a positive politeness where you genuinely meant what you are saying. Like what you're saying is what is your intention. And there is also a negative politeness because it is so easy to offend and it is hard to criticize people anymore. You can't just say rude things. You can't just criticize people directly without them being offended by it, without them taking it against you. So the negative politeness is basically sugarcoating things that you are saying. For example, we have this tactic sandwich talk where you say a good thing, you put something bad or the criticism in the middle, and then you say a good thing also in the end part of your talk. So, good thing, bad thing, and good things. To sandwich the bad thing so that it is not so harsh on the people that you're talking about. So that is a negative politeness, because you get to sugarcoat the things that you are saying in the effort to try to save face, either not to offend the person or not to ruin your image. So that's why politeness is very important, is very relevant nowadays, because we have to be careful in how we talk. We have to be polite. Now, let us consider affect, another aspect of social communication. Affect refers to the positive or negative balance of emotional experience. It has psychological arousal, subjective behavior, and expressive behavior. So, psychological arousal refers to heightened activity or of automatic nervous system. Subjective affect is an subjective affect is an effectively loaded interpretation of self, others, or events. So subjective affect is like presenting yourself as someone lovable, someone caring, someone that you can actually trust, someone that you can approach. So affect is very important in communication, because communication can only be possible if the other person actually approaches you and talks to you. And affect is very important because it views us as someone who is approachable, who someone who is loving, someone who is charming, and someone they can actually listen to or talk to. There is also another aspect of social communication, and it is emotion. Emotion. The way we talk to other people, the emotions that we emit, the emotions that we are trying to give to them is very important. You can't be angry all the time, because that is just plainly rude. You can't also be like, they termed it as overacting. So you have to actually control your emotion in talking so that your emotions are not all over the place. The most basic, the most important emotions of all is being calm. So you just need to be calm in communicating. And you need to respond with an appropriate emotion depending on the situation. For example, someone is confessing their feelings to you. You don't necessarily need to be angry or rude, or you don't need to be laughing. You need to be, if you don't want the person, you need to be considerate of the person's feelings. You need to be thankful. Or if you like the person, then you need to be happy. You need to respond with the appropriate emotion so that communication will be very effective. Because if your teacher is reprimanding you and you're just laughing because you don't care what they are saying, that is not the emotion that is appropriate for the situation. Your teacher will be enraged by your reaction, by your emotion, and it escalates things. It makes the things worse. So, in order to communication to be simple, to be not so complicated, to be effective, you need to respond with a proper emotion. There are also things that you need to consider in social communication. There is trust and there is deception. Why is trust important in communication? As I have said earlier, we have our credibility to back us up so that people will actually trust us, will believe that we are saying a fact, we are saying the truth, we are not outright lying. So, trust is very important, because what if you communicate to someone and then they did not believe you because your identity is questionable, your idea is questionable. So you need the trust of someone that you're communicating with for them to actually listen to you, for them to actually do your bidding, for them to actually respect you. You need to have their trust. And trust, once it's broken, it is so difficult to repair. There's also deception. 21st century is not so simple anymore because some words have different meaning. And as we can't afford to offend people and we can't afford to ruin our image, deception is very, very common. As we say one thing and we meant another, we meant to lie to them in a not so direct manner so that they will actually believe what you're saying even though it is not factual. Because deception is a negative thing but it can actually be an advantage and is very advantageous in some situations. So these are the things that we need to consider in communicating, aside from what we are actually uttering, aside from our gestures, aside from our expression. We need to consider our politeness. We need to consider our disposition. We need to consider our emotions. We need to consider our credibility if they can either trust us or we are deceiving them. So, all in all, as communication is very, very complex, if we can apply things that I have said earlier, it makes our communication a little bit better. So it makes us be more effective in communicating with one another.